Information about the world of running, inspiration to fuel passion and excellence, and ideas for making connections and finding community. You're listening to AtoZrunning. Hi everyone, welcome to the AtoZrunning podcast where we help runners thrive. I'm Andy.
And I am Zach. And Diane Nukuri shares her running journey from teenage Olympian to sidelined with injury and back again. And stick around after that interview for an update from the world of running, including new world records and revelations about Olympic gold medalist Faith Kipyegon. Much to hear and more. So before you do anything else, make sure you go to AtoZrunning.com and look for the word follow. It's free to subscribe, and then you will never be out of the know. But in case that's not where you go to find content, you can also find us on YouTube, podcast platforms, or social media, whatever you prefer.
We're pretty much everywhere. You can't get away from us. Even on Instagram. Last week, we talked about the lessons we learned in 2021, and a few of you chimed in with lessons that you have learned. Pete, we're so grateful that you posted about how you learned that every run has a purpose, that easy runs also have a purpose. And that relates to this next comment I want to highlight from Dan. He said that he learned to slow down on easy effort days. So yay, those are two big good things that our A to Z runners have learned. So a lot of you commented as well, but those were a couple good ones from A to Z runners.
And shout out to Ernest for giving us opportunity to have that very discussion on one of his Strava runs as well.
Oh, cool. All right.
All right.
Love that conversation.
Oh, by the way.
Yeah. So the end of the month, we're doing a Q&A episode.
Which means you need to share your questions.
Yeah.
What kinds of things are you wondering about with your training? Obstacles, challenges, struggles, or just curiosities?
Yeah.
Whatever those things may be. As we know, the most difficult thing with trying to provide like relevant information in a situation like this is all things like training tips and such. Those happen in context.
Yeah.
And so we could sit here and say, here's a good idea about easy runs, or here's a great workout. You see those articles all over the internet.
Right.
Great workout to do for blah, 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 blah. However, that is assuming the context is always the same, and it is not, ever.
It's not.
So share your questions in context. What's going on with you? And we will feature those and responses and reactions at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm. Let's get on to our main topic. Today, we have a very inspiring story from Diane Nukuri, and I want to get to it, but we're not going to get to all of her story, which I'm so sad about because we don't have the time and space for it. But I want to give you some highlights about Diane that are absolutely incredible. She's a 3-time Olympian. She is currently the Burundian record holder in the 1,500 meters, the 5,000 meters, the 10,000 meters, the half marathon, and the marathon. So Diane competed at 15 years old for Burundi at the 2000 Olympic Games in Sydney. And then she has then competed since in 2 other Olympics. She went to the University of Iowa, where she had 3 Big Ten wins. She has 10 school records at the University of Iowa. So there's so many things that I could tell you about Diane, including more recently how she has 4 top 10 finishes at World Marathon Majors. So she has had what you would say a journey with running.
In a word, fast.
Yeah, a fast journey, well, being a long journey with running. And we're excited to get to some of her story here today. But as you're listening, just think about how we all really have a journey with running, don't we? Even within the marathon, we have a journey, and it can mean different things to us. It can expose different things about ourselves. It can help connect us with others, which is a fabulous thing. So as you're listening to Diane's story, I'd invite you to enter in, to listen, and to be fascinated, and to admire Diane and all that she has gone through, but then also think about what running means to you and what journey running has taken you on. Let's get to the conversation with Diane. Hi, Diane. Welcome to the AtoZrunning podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We're excited. We're very excited to tap into your story, your running journey. And we know right now is a busy time for you. You just finished up some certifications. What are you up to?
Yeah, so I just actually passed my real estate school exam on Monday, so I'm really excited.
Congrats.
Thank you. And yeah, so I'm studying for the national exam on Wednesday. So I'm pretty excited
Okay.
to do something else besides running.
That is so awesome. Very cool. Well, I hear there's people in the biz, with real estate and running. It seems to go well together, I guess, from the people that I've heard that do it. So I get to set your own schedule. And so where will you be buying or selling houses and showing houses?
Well, mainly in Flagstaff because it's where my home is and it's a little bit smaller. So maybe I need to start with Flagstaff. But we do go back and forth with Flagstaff and Tucson. So I'm hoping in the Tucson area and Phoenix. So, I mean, I know it's going to be hard. I'm like very much prepared for that. And I just want to like learn from everybody. I've been reaching out to all my friends who are real estate and it's a lot of runners, like you said. So I am open to doing Phoenix, Tucson, but mainly Flagstaff.
Awesome. Well, congrats on that. That's exciting. And today we're talking about your running journey. And I've had the opportunity to read you in high profile stuff and listen to you on other shows. So I am very grateful and humbled that Diane, you would come on to our show to talk about your relationship with running over the years. And I want to kick it off right away. Like how did you get into running? What was running to you when you first started?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. And I'm actually a huge fan of your podcast.
Thank you.
I do listen to a lot of them, and I know you invite a lot of runners that I really like that I'm friends with. So yeah, great job. And I'm happy to be here. Yeah, so my running is a little bit different from a lot of my friends I talk to. I just started pretty much kind of like by accident, and I was born and raised in Burundi. It's in East Central Africa. It's a small country where women don't really run. And I just kind of had to fight through, I had to fight with my mom to let me go run. Even just wearing shorts or, tights, it's something that everybody kind of look at you like you're crazy. And running around at 14 or 15 as a woman in the village was one of the most embarrassing things because people are just basically saying things every time you pass by. But I just kind of it's almost like I knew what I was doing, even though I didn't really know. I just kind of went with my gut, and I knew that was going to be something that was going to take me places, and here I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it has taken you so many places, and even at 15 to the Olympics. So what was that like?
Well, when I was at the Olympics in 2000, I really had no idea what I was doing. And I think sometimes it's better when you don't know what you're doing. I was part of the team, and some of my teammates were, actually all of them were older than me, and they were all guys. And so they kind of showed me around. I only spoke my native language, which is Kirundi. And I spoke a little bit of French because I was still young, and you learn French, you become fluent as you obviously you finish high school and then you go to the university, but I wasn't fluent in French. So I really didn't know what I was doing, but I had a lot of people that were helping me, that were supporting me. And I didn't know what the Olympics were about, but I just remember watching, I think I watched Marion Jones run, and I decided I was going to be, unfortunately, we won't go back to what happened to her, but I thought she was the coolest. And I remember her walking around the village, but then I was always confused. I'm why is everybody taking pictures of her and with her? But I guess that was kind of my eye opening of running superstars. I don't know. Even then I still didn't really care about that much because I still went back to my village and just lived a teenager life.
Mm. Yeah. So why did you do it? So you were saying people in the village, even your mother, they weren't sure about it. It wasn't the norm. What ignited that? You said it was kind of an instinct for you. You knew it'd take you places. Why did you do it each day? Why were you training?
Well, I think it was just for the social part of, it was just so I can go hang out with, there's some other guys and maybe two other women that were trying to run, but they wouldn't really last for more than a month. So for me, it was, I have a lot of siblings, there's 8 of us at home, and you can imagine being with, 7 other siblings and cousins. It was just a full house. So it was always like, I saw the same people. I mean, I love my family, but like seeing the same people every day. We went to school together, and I just feel like I needed a break. I needed to meet other people. I needed an opportunity to get on the bus and go to a different city and see different things, even though I didn't know what, was gonna do for me eventually. I just, also the fact that like my mom told me no, I kind of wanted to do it. And all the people that didn't want me to do it made me want to do it. And I think also as a teenager, you want to do the opposite. And now that I'm older, I just know that I'm stubborn. I don't necessarily do what I want, but if I want to do something, I would do it even if, you're not supportive of me. I would do it just because I feel like I have a good instinct. And I just did it, and I just kept pushing. And yeah, and then once I got on a bus, and I was like, well, now I want to be on the plane. And then we went to South Africa, and I thought it was the coolest thing. I had, pocket money. I mean, for like a 15-year-old, it was cool to get back to my village, like bringing like goods to, for my mom and my siblings. And I just thought that was what life was all about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is such a special experience for anybody, but like at 15, at such a young age to have that experience. When you were there, did running change for you, how you saw running? Was there any moment that it was like running has become something different or added to your perspective about running?
I think I always saw running as like an opportunity to like go places. But then when I would get like prizes, it was also an opportunity to help my mom. My mom was a single, mom, I mean, was raising 8 kids essentially by herself. And my dad passed away when I was about 9. And my youngest sister was 4 months old. So it was like, it made me happy that I was able to help her, even though she was not supportive of my running. But it wasn't that she wasn't supportive because she doesn't love me. It was that she was really afraid of me being 14 and 15 and traveling and going places on my own. So I think it was just more being a mom and being protective of, your young daughter. And so I just saw the opportunity of helping my family, my siblings, all, we can all go to school and finish. And that's really how we were able to be successful as a family. It was about looking after each other. And I mean, that's kind of like, losing a parent, you kind of always feel like you're responsible for your siblings, and vice versa. So I think that's kind of how we grew as a family. And I love that part of me having the opportunity that my other siblings didn't have. And so it was kind of like opportunities. It wasn't, I wouldn't say I was doing it just because, oh, it felt good. Even though it started as a social thing, it was more like, wow, I can't believe I get to do that. And I'm the only person in my village who has this opportunity. So I was definitely more like, I'm really lucky and fortunate that I have this chance to do it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. So a lot of reasons, and some really important reasons to be doing it. It's a lot of responsibility as a young person. Did that put pressure? Did you feel pressure then when you did the races to perform a certain way, or when you got to the races, how did you handle the mental aspect of the pressure that you might put on yourself?
Yeah, I never really put pressure on myself because my family was never like, oh, you need to bring this to us. My family was just very excited for me. Once they all got behind me, right? It was more like, oh, it's so cool. You got to go to Europe. And it was more like I was the cool kid. It wasn't necessarily like I was putting pressure on myself to perform. It was more like whatever I can get out of it is way better than what I left in my village. So, and then it's way better than people my age in my village are doing, even older than me. So it was just, I was really happy to be there. I was always just happy looking around and seeing all the people I was meeting. Even when I couldn't communicate with them, it was more that like human connection that you don't really have to talk to people to feel connected. You're doing the same thing. We all did racing. I wasn't really that competitive with with people. I was more competitive with myself. I'm like, oh, can I run on like cross country somewhere in Europe, something that I had never seen. And whenever I was done, I was always like never thinking about the price I got or the place I got. It was more like, wow, I did that. Now I get to go home and live my normal life. So it was never really about pressure, which now that I'm here, maybe sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves, but I love that I didn't have to think. It was more like, oh, I have an opportunity to do that, so I'm going to do it.
That's a beautiful thing. I admire that a lot. I want to get to where that youth runner, Diane, I am aspiring towards that, right? Like I'm thinking about right now how important. Yeah, you are too.
Me too.
Yeah, that's part of this conversation.
Yeah, because then the more I talk about it now, I'm like, wow, things were so much easier than, which it should. You know, when you're a teenager, you have less responsibilities. And even for me now, I'm definitely not as stressed as most people that I know. So I'm more like, you know, if this works, it works. If it doesn't, I'll move on to other things. There's so many things I can do, you know. Actually, I don't think so, but whatever. That's what I tell myself.
I love that though, that you're also wanting to get back to that place and holding on to that as part of your relationship with running, which is what this episode is about, wanting to have it be something that's more pressure free, more fun. Like you get to do this and having the spirit of gratitude, which I appreciate because it's a very inspiring attribute about you. So let's go back to, so you're doing the youth running scene. Tell us a few of the highlights and things that you learned during that period of time.
Yeah, I think what I learned back then was that running could really take me places, and then that I love traveling and I love meeting people, and not necessarily that I love pushing myself, because I feel like I never got to a point where I was training every day. I would only train 3 to 4 times a week. Whereas also I was still doing chores at home. I was going to supermarkets and I was just doing like every teenager, you know, every teenager girl in my village was doing. So I was doing a lot more, but without having to think, oh, I'm going to practice. And it still really kind of applies to today. I still love training, you know, traveling. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I still like love, you know, to compete. And it's just like whatever comes, all that comes with it, traveling and meeting people. So I don't really, that hasn't changed. So.
Yeah, meeting people from all over and the connection that runners can have because we're doing the same thing. We're putting ourselves through a very uncomfortable situation and we've trained hard, worked hard. Yeah, those are some really transcendent qualities about the sport of running that I can appreciate too. So then there was when you tell us about your transition coming here and what that was like. Tell our audience more of your story. I've gotten a chance to read quite a bit about it, but some of our audience is meeting you for the first time on this podcast. Would you mind telling them a little bit more of your story, unpacking how you ended up coming to Canada?
Yeah, so when I was 16, I got qualified to run for Burundi at the Francophone Games in Canada, Ottawa, Canada. And so I, you know, of course I wasn't gonna say no, but because I had competed for Burundi 99, 2000, 2001. And I've always like knew that running was gonna be hard to keep doing at home, because one, there was like a civil war, there was like, it was very unstable to leave my village and go to the city and compete. And there are a few incidents where I was in this like bus and it got shot and then they killed one person on the bus, and that really kind of shook me because I have never seen anything like that. And I think because I was like really young, I think I was like 14 or 15, and that kind of, every time I went to represent Burundi and I came back, I've always like really wanted to stay somewhere, but I was never really quite ready. And by the time I got to Ottawa, I had decided that I was gonna stay there. But that was really hard for my mom to like hear that I wasn't gonna come back. But I had to like kind of rephrase and say, hey, I'm going to school, maybe I'll come back in 6 months. But really the plan was to apply for the asylum and stay in Canada and leave there, and so that I can keep running and go to school and feel safe, because I did have the opportunity to leave the country, unlike most of my neighbors and my teenager friends. So I ended up staying in Canada, stayed with a cousin, and I finished high school, and I ended up getting a scholarship to go to the community college, Butler Community College, Kansas. And in 2006, I transferred at the University of Iowa. And 2014, I moved to Flagstaff, Arizona. And yeah, I mean, my story is so long, but that's kind of like the
And that's why the topic is like this running journey, right? Because I feel like you've had such a journey, or you're talking us through like these different stages of your running. And we don't want to breeze over your time at the University of Iowa because, you know, you have like 10 school records there. You won like the Big Ten 3 times. There's so many accolades that you have. So can you talk us through your time at the University of Iowa and what running was like there? Were there things that you learned how was running for you then at that time and space?
I think running at the University of Iowa is where, like, I think running became very serious for me. And I think because I also had to make sure that I finished school, it wasn't just running. So there was like a lot more responsibilities, maybe a lot more stress there, where running wasn't just me running around my village. And so this time it was about almost like a job. Because, you know, I took like, you know, getting recruited at the University of Iowa as basically getting a contract to, I don't know, work for a company. That's how I took it, because my coach, you know, I got a full ride to go to the University of Iowa. That's a lot of money every year. They pay for everything for me for the 2 years I was there. So I told my coach, I'm here to work. I take it as a job. It doesn't mean I'm going to be serious and, you know, where I'm not having fun. But it was like, you know, first was school. I really had to set my priorities right, school and running. Not that anybody who partied in college was bad, but I really didn't do any of that. Because for me, it was hard to even, you know, first learn a new language and finish the university and run a Division I level. It was, and you know, I was running at the same time as Faith Kipyegon, Jenny Simpson, and all those people. It wasn't easy. And I had to actually learn to compete at the highest level. Even though I had gone to the Olympics, it was a different kind of level. It was, you know, Big Ten, regionals, nationals, all those races are really good. And you have to show up every race. So that's when I was like, okay, this is a thing where I actually have to be, you know, serious. I have to concentrate. So yeah, that's really pretty much where running. I was like, well, this is a lot, but I can do it, because I knew that I've also done things before that. It wasn't necessarily about running. It was about life, navigating through, you know, leaving my family and going to Canada. All of that really took a lot out of me, especially when I was young. So I knew that there was nothing I wasn't going to be able to do. So I definitely told my coach that I wasn't going to disappoint him. And yeah, that's kind of pretty much what happened.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot to take on. Absolutely. For any student athlete, it is so difficult, but then also learn you said the language piece, and then this whole new level of competition. I went to a small university, so I can't I don't have the same like experience or framework to come from, but I can imagine that would be just a lot for a young person. How did running help you navigate some of that in some ways?
Yeah, it definitely helped, because I remember I used to get up at like 4 a.m. to study, because I feel like I had to study more than other people. I had to read more than once. So I would just study all day, and then I could not wait to go practice. You know, it was, for me, that was like what I just that was what I was having fun, versus in class, I was not having fun in class. I mean, I remember one time I went to this class and I came back, I told my coach, I was like, I was in that class for an hour and I have no idea what they were talking about. So he's like, oh, it's okay, we can talk about it after practice. So we have a tempo today. And I'm like, that's the easiest part. I couldn't wait to get to the tempo. Whereas my teammates were like, oh my gosh, we have a tempo. And I just look at them. They probably didn't really like me much, because they were probably like, who is this girl who's excited about doing a tempo? But for me, that was the easiest part. All we have to do is like put our running shoes on, which we got a lot of it, versus when I was back home with Bary had shoes. Sometimes I had to wear barefoot to run barefoot. But then all I had to do is like put my shoes and do a tempo. Or when we go to a race, I used to tell my teammates, hey, this is like business. We have to take it as business. They're like, we need to have fun. I'm like, fun is when you are competing and having fun and beating people. And even if you don't beat them, do your best and then we'll move on and we'll try next time. So running definitely helped me. I think without running, I wouldn't be able to I don't think I would have been able to be as successful or as happy.
That's really powerful, because it is so true that running is simple if we allow it to be, and we work our butts off at it. But when it, like you're talking about your day, waking up at 4 a.m., studying, going to these classes that are difficult, and then you lace up your running shoes and you go run the workout. That should be fun. That should be the best. That should be like the best part of our day, when, especially when we're choosing it, as adults that we're choosing to go and run. It should be fun like that. I can really appreciate that perspective. And so that was something that you learned during this phase. And how was your transition then to pro running?
Oh, so I didn't really know I was gonna turn pro, because when I finished, I think the highest I finished was like 4th in cross country, which wasn't bad, but it wasn't where true companies were lining up to where is Diane so we can sign her? That was not the case. It was that I told my coach, I said, I told him, I said, my college coach, Lane Anderson, I said, I think I want to run after college. And he's like, well, yeah, you can do it. You're just going to have to I was like, I am willing to do whatever it takes and do all this high mileage. Because, after college, you hear about these pros that do high mileage. And I've always wanted to do high mileage, because he wouldn't let me do high mileage in college, which I appreciate so much right now. But I was like, I want to do high mileage. I want to do marathons. I want to go do these races I hear about. And he's like, okay. So I kind of struggled after college, I think for 2-3 years, where I was like, okay, maybe I need to be really serious. I won't go out. I won't do anything. My life is only going to be about running. And I tried that for 6 months. I was so miserable. And I was like, no. I'm going to go back to where my running used to be fun, where I did it because I chose to do it. And I didn't have to punish myself, not doing certain things, So I just kind of went back to my old, to how school, running was when I was in school. And so I think things start clicking around 2011. And I just started going to these races where I was finishing top 3. I was winning. I was like, oh, this is fun. Not necessarily because I was doing well, but it felt good. It felt good that I could start my season in February. And then by the end of, the year, I'm just feeling better. I'm getting better. I'm feeling stronger. And that really was encouraging. And when I signed with ASICS, they never really put pressure on me. And I think also I didn't want that to be the case. So I never signed a big contract, but my contract got better and I got bonuses. And that to me kind of made me think of the time when I started running, when I started traveling and leaving my village. It was the same where I'm like, now I'm making money through running. I'm getting these free cute clothes. And I still feel the same way today. And I'm like, this is amazing. So the time 2011 to 2017, when I had those years with no injuries, nothing, running was amazing. I was like, sometimes I didn't do well, other times I did really well, but it really didn't change how I felt about running. It was also just being able to when I moved to Flagstaff, and I remember when I found my home and I was like, wow, I can't believe I can buy a home with running. I know that's not how it works now that I'm learning about real estate, but it was just I always think of how I was when I grew up running around in my village. And now that I live in Flagstaff, I can travel everywhere. I have friends, I have everything that I really need. And so right now running kind of during that time until I got injured, but I also wanted to go to these races and win and hopefully get top 3 major marathons. I start having all these big goals, which you also put pressure on yourself a little bit, but it's okay to put pressure on yourself because that means you care. That means you want to do well. It's my full-time job. But when I got injured, it's just things changed in 2017 towards the end, where 2018, 2019, 2020 was wow. I came to a point where I was like, this could be it. But I was also I'll be happy either way. I've had a really long, good career. And this year, I was every time I went to race, I remember the race I did in Austin. It was one of the most painful races I've ever done. I was out of shape and it was hot and it was on a track. And I was like, why am I doing this to myself? But then I was like, but I know why I'm doing this, because this is going to make me better this summer. That's what I told myself. And in the end, that's really what happened. But it's like, I took that this year as a bonus year, that I could have just said last year, I'm done. And then decided to keep going. And I started running the times that I was running like 5-6 years ago. And I was like, you know what? I'm not done yet. I still got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know that was long, but yeah.
I mean, that takes so much patience with yourself too. And I'd love to know how you went through that injury phase. I feel like every runner at some point gets an injury that kind of rattles them and they're like, why am I doing this? It's not coming easily to me anymore. I feel so far back. Will I ever be able to catch up? We kind of have that feeling like I need to catch up, but then that makes us more injured because then we try to go back too fast. Like, what was the injury experience like for you?
Honestly, that was probably my lowest point. Like because it wasn't just one injury. It's like one thing after another. The Achilles, hamstring tear. It wasn't just that I had like the hamstring tear. It happened during a mini 10K in June, and when I went to see my physio, which he's so great, but I told him like something is wrong. But he's like, I think I pulled my hamstring. He's like, oh, if you pull your hamstring, you will not be walking. But I was like, I was barely walking. That's why I dropped out of 10K. I don't even drop out in a marathon. I knew something was wrong, but I also wanted to, to think, okay, maybe I'm just kind of over exaggerating. Like I'm exaggerating. I'm like a little bit, it's too soon. It was a day after the race. I'm still like emotional. I'm gonna like, get some treatment and do all that before. But then I kept running on it until I think September. I remember I went on a run. I was supposed to do 8-mile run from home. And I turned around at 3.5. You know, when you're just running, but you're not even like paying attention to anything around you. This is like one of my favorite places to run. It's like a loop from my house. And I just remember I kept thinking about like my hamstring and my hip, everything was hurting. And I remember, I think Abdi was running with his friends and he's like, they waved and I'm just like, oh, I wasn't even looking at them. And I got home, he's like, how's your run? You look good. I'm like, no, I just lost it. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. But that was like my breaking point. And I texted my physio. I said, I need to come and see you. I can't do this anymore. So he really kind of knew. I think he could tell because he knows the kind of person I am. And I was just done. I was not even like smiling, nothing. I said, I'm in so much pain. This is not fun. So it was so nice. He ordered me MRI within 24 hours. And turns out I had like, I don't know, it was the worst hamstring tear. It was so bad. But then again, I was like, with the MRI, like it also showed that I had like, fibroids, and I had been struggling with like, cramps and period for the last like 10 plus years with running. It's gotten worse as I got older. But so that was, in a way, that was really good. And I was like, okay, this is perfect. I can get this done and let my hamstring here. And that's exactly what happened. It took a long time, but I think having like friends and family, especially friends I understand, and like, I mean, I feel like Abdi is really patient. He's always, you'll be okay. And I'm like, that's all you're gonna tell me? I need more. But I think just having people around me that, been through the same, and just also like all these years have been, from the time I started running from when I was in my village to up until I got injured, I had never really slowed down, even took a break. It was always me going from, high school, like to college and chasing all these things and trying to help my family and try to help myself. But it was never really about like, okay, now it's time. You know how they say, sometimes it's just nice to sit down and not do anything and not having to think about other people. That was the first time in my life that I just kind of slowed down. And in a way that was like, okay, I need this. And that's how I really kind of was able to like not be, stressed. And I said, if this is the end, I had a good run and it's okay.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to get to that spot for sure. And so it wasn't the end, spoiler alert for everybody. But how did your view of running change during that time or coming out of that time of injury? How did your relationship with running change, or what were some of the constants about running that you didn't expect?
I think when I came back, especially when I became pain-free, I was like, wow, feels amazing. I miss this feeling. You know, you think like 3-4 years, you kind of forget how good running is, right? Because you go through these years when you're trying. Sometimes you go for a walk and you start jogging a little bit, and you know you shouldn't do that. You just stop because you're trying everything. Because sometimes I feel like when you're coming back from an injury, you kind of have to run through some pain a little bit, because your body is not, you're going from like not doing much to taking your body to the level that, you know, to the level where you're running every day, 80 plus miles a week. That's a lot, and you're pounding. So sometimes I have to be like, okay, this hurt, but I know I was able to tell the difference between just the soreness and injury, because I've gone through so many of them. So, and then whenever, I mean, I remember I used to do these workouts with like Rachel and Sarah, actually not long ago, this year, the beginning. And they'll be doing a mile. I would do like a half mile, or they would do like 8 times a mile. I would do 4 of them. But then I would do it at the speed that they were doing it. Like if I'm doing around 5:08, 5:10, 5:15, and 5 step, I'm like, if I can do those 4 of them, I should be able to run a 10K this summer. So I wasn't thinking, oh, let me go do this big marathon and run a big PB. That's not how I was thinking. My running mentality had to really change. It's like, I love that every year, no, I mean, every day I'm improving. And I know that like, I know I'm talented, but also running comes easy. And once I get back to where I feel healthy and then just slowly build back up, I knew that I was going to get back. But also, I also knew that if I wasn't going to get back, it wasn't going to be the end. It was just, I was still going to have like, be able to go run 4 miles with friends and just have fun. And it's okay if I can't run professionally. I mean, running, yeah, we make you look like, oh, so fun, but it's like, it's just like any other job. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I hear a theme throughout this conversation, and it's the connection that you're finding with people. How has that changed? Has it stayed the same? What is the connection piece of running for you, Diane?
Oh, I think it hasn't really changed. If anything, that now that I'm older, the relationships have more meanings, and I just feel like you said, we were talking earlier, like sometimes you don't even have to say anything. You just see somebody running on a bike path or trail, like you kind of know how they feel, and you know what they're feeling. You can tell, you know, it's just that connection. I feel like it's hard to explain, but for me, I think about in the last 20 plus years, from my coaches, my teammates, like the people that I competed against, that now I would say that we are friends, even if we're not like close friends. I've been seeing you in the last 10 years. You can't deny that we're somehow friends, right? So I think it has so much more meaning. Like, and I have a lot of friends that if it wasn't for running, really, I wouldn't have probably any friends. I'll probably have a different friend, but it wouldn't be the same. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. It's that human connection, but that other people probably don't get to experience like we do. And it's not even about, I mean, I haven't really met you, but I feel like listening to you guys, like, I feel like somehow we're like friends through running.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm telling you? Like, when I'm talking about my injuries and the things I've been through, I'm sure you've been through the same or similar. And I feel like you get me more than, you know, versus if I was going to go outside my house and tell a random person, you know, I had a hamstring tear. They'll be like, what is that?
Oh, I feel the same way, Diane. I've appreciated connecting with you. And it is something special that this running, it's like life in motion. We're doing life. It's not just running like separate from life. It's part of it. And it's just this motion that we are doing together, and it brings us together. And I can really appreciate that, and how you've emphasized it through your running journey and how it's grown. That's super inspiring to hear. So I guess now, here at the end of the episode, can you update our audience on what you're up to now and what you're thinking about with running in the future?
Yeah, so now I'm just kind of building towards next year. I've had like a little like tendon thing before Chicago, and like we're talking about running, it's not the end. That's just part of life. And obviously I would have, it would have been so much better had I gone into Chicago feeling great, but I was able to do the race, and I was able to like smile during just the fact that I was able to like start the race after having not run a marathon in a couple of years. And now I'm just building towards next year. I mean, I'm not putting any pressure on myself. I wanted to do the half, the US champs, and I was like, I'm not really ready. So it's just better to be smart. And, as you get older, running, you don't recover from injuries or marathons the same way you used to, at least for me. So right now I'm getting ready for the spring, and just not forget that this is just like a bonus few years for me. And this is something I love, but this is something that I do to connect with people. I always say like running is like life. That's what I think about my life, and not just me. I think for a lot of people, there's so much ups and downs, but there's so many opportunities. And then I've been able to create family outside my family that I call my own family now. And I mean, I can't imagine life without it. And I always want to remind myself that even when things are not going well, that I have created something so special. And there is also so many more opportunities and more people that I want to meet. I want to get hopefully in like coaching too. I just want to be able to share my running and what it has done for me. And I know just because we're all runners doesn't mean we see running the same way. But for me, it has been like a way to connect with people and, run with people. This morning, I just ran with Sarah. So she finished second in Boston. She lives in Tucson, and she's super sweet. I have never really done runs with her, but we were able to just chat about life and just for those 10 miles. And that's just what running does. So, yeah.
It's amazing. Well, I'm so grateful that running has brought us together, and our audience now is able to hear from you too. So connections all around. Well, on behalf of the audience and on behalf of Zach and I, thank you so much, Diane. We super appreciate your story and what you bring to the running community.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Well, as Andy noted, thank you, Diane, for joining the show, for sharing with the people, with all of the people. And we appreciate with the story of a runner, the relatability that tends to fall in all of these things. And so, Diane, as you're sharing from your experiences about the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs, certainly not all of us have shared similar kinds of experiences,
like the Olympics, like three times and 15
or,
years old.
Many of us haven't like run our whole lives, and so
That's true too, yeah.
Seeing how running has been a different piece in the puzzle for you as you've grown from childhood. Those are all great things, and so we appreciate the reflection there. And as you share, there's different kinds of challenges and different steps in the process, and so whether those challenges relate to pursuing goals and the disappointments that come when we don't achieve goals, or when something happens that interrupts our pursuit, those are all hard moments. And so thank you for sharing those thoughts with all of us. And speaking of interesting thoughts and running journeys, let's get on to the world of running. First up in the world of running.
You get to take it?
No, I'm introducing it.
All right.
World records.
World records. You know, I get geeked about sharing the fastest times that have ever been run in the entire world. Don't you? Who doesn't? In Barcelona on New Year's Eve, pending ratification, there were 2 world records that happened for the men and for the women, starting with the women. Let's talk about that one because it was a smashing record. Go ahead.
Yeah, Ejigayehu Taye of Ethiopia. Not an unfamiliar name if you were paying attention to the Olympic summer. She's very fast.
And the Diamond League.
Well, yes. So that's what I said, Olympic summer.
Okay.
She's very fast. She was doing lots of very fast things last summer. And she just simply has taken her very fastness from the track onto the road and obliterated all the other people's very fastnesses that happened previously.
That's not a real way to speak, I don't think.
But that is exactly what happened, because in the 5K, which you know because you pay attention to our podcast, 5K means it's a road race. 5,000 meters means it's a track race. So in the 5K, she ran a whopping 14:19.
Ridiculous. She bettered the previous record by 24 seconds. 24 seconds.
That's no small thing.
What?
Okay, now we apply the caveat because this is what everybody is always doing right now, and it's an inappropriate caveat. The shoes that you can now wear on the road make the road feats closer in form and fashion to track in terms of like how well an athlete can compete.
But didn't who previously held this?
I don't remember who.
Gonzaga
I know
Baba?
Beth Potter had one time, and then remember.
Oh, right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, but it wasn't that one. So it got broken quite a few times in the last year, in the last couple of years, and over the course of this time, people have been saying, oh, it's because like the road shoes have allowed road racing to be, and plus they make courses now that are like just basically lightning fast race courses. However, it was never this fast, so she just like astounded the world with that. Also, set an Ethiopian 3,000 meter record earlier this year. So like she's a record breaker.
She is, and she's really young. She's only 21 years old. So we can expect that if she doesn't get injured, that we'll be seeing her really competitively on the scene, and it's exciting to see what she can do. I just tried to look it up, but it's actually been beaten a few times. It was Dibaba who did have it previously, 14:11. So
no, that was
the track time.
You're looking at the wrong.
Yep. I am. Sorry, guys.
Let's talk about the men's one as Andy continues to harvest more data. Yeah. So the 5K for the men's record also went down again by Ethiopian. This was Bary Hu Aragawi, which is not, again, an unfamiliar name lately. Aragawi's been doing all sorts of important and valuable fast things on track and the roads, as it were. So his, however, was not like shatter the record by leaps and bounds because the record was already fairly close to the track record for the men's road race. And so as a consequence, there's not a lot of space to gain. And he didn't gain it by much. What was the under a second? It was tenths.
Under a second.
Wait, no, 2 seconds.
Okay. 2 seconds?
2 seconds.
All right, 2 seconds.
Yep.
All right. But it was
running
close.
12:49 on the roads.
Wow.
Which is astounding. Now, it's especially cool because the person's record he broke was Joshua Cheptegei of Uganda, who holds the 5,000 meter and 10,000 meter records as well on the track. So
I got the information for you now. Sorry about the delay, guys, because I know you all need to know now that I put it in your head. It was Caroline Kipyegon of Kenya.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Kipyegon, sorry.
Kipyegon. So on the side of like the race itself, these are always fascinating things because if you've got a woman running 14:19 on a road race, then she's beating most of the like elite men as well.
Yeah. So we watched it. I watched it, and I have a link for the finish. It's not like it's like a ongoing race video, so it's not like narrated or whatever.
Right.
However, you do get to see it pretty clearly through the finish. How there was a man that was running like neck and neck with her towards the finish, but he was on the outside of where he needed to be as a men's finisher because they were pulling the tape for her.
Yep.
So it looks like, and maybe perception could be off, it looks like he like had a dart behind her and then do this like really sharp angle to the men's finish. But I was thinking like you can kind of see that from a long way off. I wonder why he didn't start like floating that direction. But
okay, so and I like to share this insight because I ran the Chicago Marathon as a like one the tier underneath elite once, and they tell us while we're getting ready for the race, they're talking to us in the prep tent, and they're saying, remember, we've got really fast women in this race and we want them on camera, so if you see them around you, you have to give them space. And they're like telling us, don't run close to the fast women, like stay away from them because they want them on camera. And this is one of those things where it's like they say it so many times because they want to make sure you remember. But then you get in the race and it's like, I'm not thinking about whose camera has the best view of the person running next to me.
And if you're in front of
her, this
guy's
guy's trying to finish the race, and and so it's like one of those things where it's like, he's not paying attention to that. Yeah. He's just trying to finish a race. He's running fast, man. He's trying to run 14:20.
That's true. That's fast. However, like there probably was some chatter among people, that she was gonna smash the world record.
At that point, you've got to know. Yeah,
I don't know.
She's hammering it down.
But I did feel kind of badly for him when he had to like kind of cut behind and like zigzag, and not zigzag, but do this sharp angle. But I mean, it was a moment of history. So
He
got to be part of that moment of history for a brief time. So that's pretty cool.
For better or worse. Okay.
Another
now, number 2.
Yes,
another New Year's Eve race.
Madrid 10K. This is a World Athletics elite level road race.
So much going on in Spain.
I know.
It's the place to run fast.
So Spain's Mohamed Katir, who you heard us talk about because he was lighting up the track this past summer. He became the first Spanish man in 18 years to win in Madrid.
Wow.
And it was in a pretty commanding time of 27:45.
That's something, so they talk about this a lot in road races where it's like, if you have a race that has enough prize money, then you attract international athletes. And it's one of those things where it's like a lot of races will pay, the first local finisher as well as the overall finisher, because it's like, otherwise it's just international people winning all the money in all the races. And this is a good example of that, where, it takes an Olympian and record breaker to win in his home country's race.
That's cool. I love that.
Cool.
That's awesome. I love when running is so competitive that it just brings the world together like this. So I did want to mention about Mohamed Katir that his range is just increasing.
Indeed.
Because
this is a longer race for him.
This is a longer race. He's kind of like a mid-distance guy, but I don't even know if I can call him that anymore. Probably not.
On the track he is, but this is a road race, so who knows?
Very cool. Now, in the women's race, we had a little bit of an upset of what was originally called on this event because the 2-time world 5,000 meter champion Hellen Obiri, who we've discussed in this show, was not able to run because she tested positive for COVID, unfortunately, and had to pull out of the event like the day before the race.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate.
Sadness for her.
I mean, that's not terribly surprising with how rampant COVID numbers have been. That's going to happen. But
sad though, because she had traveled there on holiday and everything. So, but who won instead, Zach?
Well, so then another Ethiopian. So this time, Degitu Azimira, if I said that correctly. And she being a sub 2:18 marathoner, jumping into the 10K in a time of, what was this?
30:26. The third fastest winning time in the event's history.
That's good. Yep, that's fast.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff. So fast times happening on the roads, but for number 3 here, we want to actually just reflect back.
Yes.
Because Andy cannot stop talking about Faith Kipyegon.
I love Faith Kipyegon.
Andy talks about
Y'all
Faith
know
Kipyegon like Zach
I
talks
do.
about Jekobinga Brixton.
It's true, folks. It's true. Faith Kipyegon gave a little bit more insight. You've heard us discuss how she came back from her pregnancy. And
she had a baby like 3 years ago.
It was not long ago. And while childbirth is not relatable to everybody, coming back from periods of time, like due to injury, might be pretty relatable to you. So this is kind of a little overview of her journey through this and what has become of it. So she took 12 months off altogether. So I just want to start with that. 12 months. So she had a few months in pregnancy.
Let's recontextualize. She just won the gold medal this summer.
She also, that was defending her
She
previous
did the gold medal before having
Right.
the baby.
Right.
Had a baby and then won another gold medal in the 1,500 meters. So that by itself, that progression never happens.
Oh, well, it is starting to, though. With a lot of female
We'll
athletes.
probably see it a little bit more and a
more.
little bit more. But it's a rare thing. So that's part of what makes it so impressive.
Well, it's just rare to be that fast, period. Let's be real about that. But so she had taken 12 months off, which is not actually quite as typical. So she had months during pregnancy and then postpartum where she was not running any amounts. And when she started back to exercise, she began on the stationary bike. She built up to the zero runner and the elliptical. And then she started back, as all of us have to do with the run walk.
The run walk.
She had to do that too. And so she gave a little bit of her 1,500 meter training, which was a lot like marathon training.
Because why? Andy?
Because aerobic fitness is where it's at. Exactly. So I wanted to bring this up here today because getting that insight into Faith Kipyegon's journey, I think is encouraging, because if there's a time where you have a surgery, I might be pending right now, and I've talked to many of you who have had some pretty major upsets, or there's been times where you're not being consistent and you're feeling bad about yourself. Well, if it's safe and it's time, begin again, because you don't know what could happen and the potential that you might have. So,
and you might win a gold medal.
You could. I'm not going to promise such things, but it's amazing how Faith has come to be where she's at right now. So in June of 2019, 12 months after giving birth, Kipyegon made her racing comeback, and she won the 1,500 meters at the Prefontaine Classic in Palo Alto, and in a time of 3:59. So later that year, she lowered her Kenyan record to 3:54. She won silver at the 2019 World Championships, and then she's been like unbeatable. Sifan Hassan can't even beat her, which is, yes.
She's awesome.
She's awesome, yeah. And in 2020, of course, she had so many amazing times. In 6 races she won. She ran the second fastest time ever in the 1,000 in August that year. Remember, we were talking about her.
Kept attempting the record.
And she kept attempting the record, and we're like, you're going to get it. And then she smashed the Kenyan 1,500 meter record in Monaco in July of 2021, where she ran 3:51.
And if you're familiar with these things, she's only a
3:51.
shade under or over, I should say, the world record.
Right.
Narrowly missed.
So then, of course, weeks later, she went head-to-head again with Sifan Hassan, and she maintained her Olympic title in the 1,500 meter run.
What a journey.
What a journey. We talk about running journeys on this show. We talked to Diane and her amazing running journey. And there's so many stories like these. So when we get the chance, we love to bring you this kind of inspiration to know that the world's best. You get to a race, you see someone like Diane who's crushing it, getting top 10 at world majors, that she also has a running journey. And there's things that are relatable in this sport. And it's a privilege that we can all be part of this running community together to experience it.
If you want your running journey to look a lot like those running journeys,
what are you promising?
You
here?
could head to AtoZrunning.com.
Oh, goodness.
You can look for the word coaching. We can't promise that we can make you Olympic medalists or Olympians at all. Maybe.
Who knows?
But the point is,
we're going to try to help you find your best.
If we are the kind of thing that you think could help you.
Yeah.
And so you can check us out. You can also just send questions. And remember, we've got a Q&A episode coming up at the end of the month. You don't want to miss it, but you also want to be a part of it. And in order to do that, all you got to do is ask a question.
Yeah.
So find the place where you can interact with us. And if you don't know where to go, you can always head to AtoZrunning.com, look for our contact form, and then share a question about your running experiences there.
In context.
In context.
We love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of the A to Z Running Podcast. If you happen to enjoy it, we'd love for you to review, to subscribe, to tell your friends, your running friends, if you have them.
Not your non-running friends, because we really
they
cares
might not like,
about non-runners.
It's pretty niche.
I mean,
oh,
did I say that out loud?
Oh no, Zachary.
I care about non-runners.
This is a very niche kind of content. So we appreciate that you're here. Happy running to you, and we'll talk to you next week.